hockey fans, you've got a special podcast tonight because one of my side gigs is power skating coach for the NC State Icepack, and that's head coach Tim Healy. I'm Ryan DuPraw, and this is the Carolina Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Scout My Game and DuPraw Powerskating. So tonight we're going to be obviously focusing on the Icepack and things that Coach Healy's seen since his time with them and progress that's been made. And then also we're going to be talking about his free time, which he has none of. And that's why we're going to get right to it. So we're going to jump right in. Tim, thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
No, Ryan, thanks for having us here. Thanks for having me on and thinking of the Icepack. And it's whether it's out on the ice or power skating or here, it's always great to be with you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, I got to tell you, my first experience, to be real transparent, when I came out, and there's always, even since I was down with Florida Gulf Coast University, there's like a cloud over saying club hockey, right? And it puts like a certain thought in people's heads, like they're not very serious. It's not super competitive, and why didn't you go play NCAA somewhere? And I got to tell you, even the first time I came out with you guys, I was blown away at the talent out there and the speed and the skill. And I guess that's my first question to you is how can we change people's perception of really what club hockey is? Because I hate saying the term. I don't believe it really does justice.
Yeah, and to be honest, to be fair, there are some programs that really truly are what you might think of as a traditional club. But the ACHA, which was formed, some over 25 years ago now, the American Collegiate Hockey Association, it's just that it's a collegiate hockey association, and they've done a great job in really creating different levels for where different teams can be depending upon where their program is. And we're fortunate in a spot where we're definitely more on the serious side of things, but it still allows our guys to have more of an overall college experience too. And, I know you mentioned you wanted to talk about this. You started off with Florida Gulf Coast, and, they're really in a lot of ways what we aspire to be. And I don't think we're far from it as far as a top dog in the collegiate hockey in the ACHA. But yeah, I'll be honest, like even the first time I got out with NC State too, I was really surprised and blown away. I think for those of us that come out of the Northeast, we kind of have some college hockey blinders on, right? I mean, we're spoiled. You're going to the Whittemore Center to see, UNH play, and then you think about the D3 schools, like the NESCAC schools, like Middlebury, and then, the high D3s like Norwich. It's, it's such phenomenal hockey. And then that's just it. It's such phenomenal hockey, but there are only so many opportunities. When I was at a place called Tilton School, the head coach there, Pat Norton, when we would have recruits come into the office, he would say at the time, you have 55 Division I schools. You had 60 some on Division III. You take out the Division III schools that don't have the recruiting budget to come east. Then you take out the Division III schools for most kids, like the NESCAC schools, where you have to have a super high-end academic background. Suddenly you start shrinking that list down, and it really became only about 25 colleges. Then in those 25 colleges, how many of those spots are opening up on a given year? Now you're suddenly having all these kids in New England in the minute, and this is before hockey really expanded. You're having a lot of kids fight over very few slots. And so if you actually start to think about the math of it, there's a lot of great hockey players that are left outside of NCAA hockey. So it shouldn't be all that surprising that some of the higher end club teams have a really high level of hockey. It shouldn't be surprising at all.
So I want you to go a little bit more in depth into this about like the experience, right? So I have a son, he's about ready to graduate, and he knows he's not a Division I player, but he's got his sights set at D3, and at best he barely makes the team, and he's going to be riding the pine. He's going to be a fourth liner, versus he could stay home and he could be a part of any of the ACC schools. But let's say he's in Raleigh and he could be a part of the Icepack. What's the difference in his experience going to D3 saying, hey, I'm on the team, but I'm not playing, versus staying home and being a part of what you guys,
Yeah.
your program?
So what I'll say is at a lot of places, he would have a better experience at we're talking about a borderline D3 kid that is going to be in the lineup, not necessarily always in a coat and tie in the stands, but, fourth line fighting that spot.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, he's going to have a better college experience and perhaps a better academic experience at a place like NC State. So here's what I mean. If you're at a place like Hamilton or a place like Tufts and you're fighting to get in the lineup, at the end of the day, you're walking out of there with a NESCAC diploma. Yeah. Go and do that, because that's the thing that's most important for the rest of your life. And those schools are normally able to meet 100% of demonstrated need for financial aid. So the likelihood that you're coming out of there with super high college loans isn't as high either, right? But now you start going down your more the middle of the pack Division III schools that maybe don't have the super high endowments. You're a solid academic kid for there, maybe not enough to get a merit scholarship. Now you're looking at taking out college loans. You're playing in front of maybe 200 people. You don't necessarily have a rink on campus. Suddenly it's not so glamorous, right? So now the school itself is, maybe it's a good school, maybe it's not. I'm not going to throw out names there. But let's say if you're just doing it purely for the hockey point and you're not a top 6 forward and it's not your best fit academically, you're going to have a better experience staying home at a place like NC State. You're going to pay in-state tuition. In non-COVID years, when we've demonstrated when we have good ice time starts. 2 years ago, when our game started around 8:45 at night, we averaged 1,900 fans a game. That rivals a lot of Division I places. Last year, our start times got moved back to 10 p.m. That changed that. I guarantee you, with the new building, we had 7 p.m. start times this year lined up. We'll pack that place, and especially when we're playing a regular ACC rival. And that's the other thing too. At a place like NC State, by the way, Kentucky's this way too, with the way their fan support is. Florida Gulf Coast is. We don't have an NCAA hockey team above us, so we are NC State's college hockey team. We are the Raleigh community's college hockey team, and so that gives us a lot of tie-ins that sometimes play. If you're even a club team at a place like Penn State that has a great club history, well, the NCAA State team is still taking a top fiddle. So, it all comes together. And by the way, Penn State's club team is still very good. Great facility, great program, one of the top ones too. But my point is, at a place like NC State, it really comes together in a lot of ways between the school, the community, and then the academics of NC State too. If you're an engineering major, if you're, short of going to a place like RIT or RPI, you're not going to get much better of an engineering education. And I would even argue, if you're paying out of state tuition to go to a place like RPI, well, it's private anyway, if you're paying that in terms of career earning potential, I would put our engineering program, you're probably a step ahead of it. Our guys all leave with jobs lined up. I'm not going to say what school, but a school last year fancied themselves a cut above us academically, and to face off a guy. By the way, this is a school we were beating 6-0 at the time. Said, how's that's all right. You're still a safety school for us. And our guy looked at him and goes, "How's your $250,000 student loans?" And oh, by the way, I already got an $85K a year job lined up. So
that's chirping. That's chirping. Right?
That's smart kid chirping, right? I don't know if that, but that's also the reality of it, and that demonstrates. Not in maybe the best way, but in a good way of why NC State is. And by the way, I say NC State, but a lot of club programs are a great option too.
Well, and I want to talk about the difference of what you got promoted to, right? Because you were with Coach Gazzillo, and so now this is your first year, and a lot has changed, especially your resources and facility. And I got to tell you, I was blown away. I did not expect that when I came in the first time.
Well, I think two things. I think Coach Gazzillo made us, he knew when to exit stage right coming this year with COVID coming in, and what's that done for schedules and stuff like that. Yeah. So, he's a smart guy there. No, I think, moving into the Weight Competition Center, which, they actually had the media day for it today. And I want to thank Canes Country actually for giving us a little love, because they showed all the locker rooms on the tour, but they highlighted us a little bit too. So appreciate that. But, the facility is just to me, it's the next evolution, iteration of where this NC State program is. Iceplex was great to us. Love that big sheet of ice. For us, opposing teams didn't like it. But, now we're in a place that really is probably the nicest facility within our conference. And in our region, our immediate region, other than Liberty, it's probably the nicest facility. And now we actually have a lot of even what, say Liberty has with the turf workout space up there. If you go into our room, we kind of have and it's really not a locker room. It's more like a team suite. We have an area with dry stalls, sharpener in the room, coaches and video room, and then the locker room itself, which is spacious. And so it's a great evolution of it. And it's new, and we also have always had a good partnership with the Canes itself. So hopefully it'll cement that some more. But, we had we're lucky the USPHL junior Canes play out of there. And we had a couple kids off that team that we're interested in. And, after the game last week, basically just walked them from one side of the building to the other. And they walked in and their eyes kind of lit up like, hey, this wasn't what I was expecting for club. And, our space up there is, again, I'll put it up against a lot of Division III schools, maybe not the Norwiches of the world, but a lot of others. It's certainly comparable to it, if not better.
Yeah, you got that right. I mean, I felt right at home when I walked in. I just didn't expect that kind of facility. It's amazing. You got a sweet setup there, and I know you guys you use every inch of it as well.
And I want to give a credit. A lot of the guys worked hard on that. I mean, we were fortunate. We got a great lead donor gift to take care of the stalls, but when it came down to the painting, the engineering majors, and this is what's great about club hockey too, right? Like, the guys that are doing engineering and design, they did all the 3D renderings and the blueprint stuff for it.
That was your boys?
Yeah, our boys did. They did all of that layout. So, they're putting that to work. So how great of an experience is that? Our marketing guys that are marketing majors and and design majors, they did all that logo stuff and all the branding stuff. So, you talk about, that's another opportunity with club hockey too, right? Like you're building resumes, you're building your resume in a whole different way.
Yeah, I got up there and there was a camera in my face. You've got your own social media marketing video crew. That was pretty impressive, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, Zach, again, like you think about Zach Solway and Harrison Eaton and Harrison Green, that, their Pack All Access, their behind the scenes show. Again, think about what they're building from a resume and building our brand. And so, and if you haven't seen the Pack All Access, I was blown away the first time I saw it. I mean, it's high quality. It's, like anything you'd see on the HBO road to the Winter Classic.
So anybody that's watching this or listening, Coach, where, how do they get a hold of that? How do they jump on those platforms? Do they go to your website or?
Yeah, so you can go to Icepack, icepackhockey.com, or any of our social media, or we're obviously on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. But if you go to icepackhockey.com, we have our Icepack Hockey YouTube channel. So we're all the places you'd expect us to be.
Outstanding. Now, some of the I was also very surprised when I talked to you. You said it was basically a local poll. Like I would have thought you were pulling from all over the Southeast, and you're talking about a lot of local guys this talent pool that you have.
Yeah. And, you take there's this one of the things too that I was really shocked by when I moved down here in general, and I've only been down here 5 years. So we haven't been here much. You and I have been here about the same amount of time. Is just, we have 7 sheets of ice around Raleigh. When I talk to friends back up in the Northeast, they're stunned by that, right? Other than when I've been at prep schools that have their own rink, this is the best hockey setup I've had in terms of ice and proximity to our homes. And, so, a lot of these guys, they got into hockey right around the last time that Canes, well, the first time the Canes won the cup, hopefully not the last time. And that really was a boon for hockey down here. And so now those kids, they're college age, and now we're in another run of really good hockey in and around the Triangle, and hopefully that will keep it going. But we have a lot of guys that went off. You know, we have two guys, for example, that went off in the BCHL, which for our listeners that aren't familiar with it, the BCHL is probably of the junior A leagues in Canada, the top NCAA feeder of the junior leagues, not the major juniors, because those are more feeders directly, because you lose your college eligibility for the most part when you do major juniors. So that would be akin. So BCHL is, again, one of the top junior leagues out there. I actually think it's the best of the junior A leagues in Canada. It's certainly the most fun. If you want to go on my any of the hockey TV site, watch some BCHL games. They're wide open. They're a lot of fun to watch. So, you know, we have two guys out of there, and they're really the epitome of what we're looking for. They're both local guys. They actually both went up and played prep hockey up in New England, one at Salisbury and one at South Kent. And then, you know, they chased a dream out in the BCHL, and they had a lot of fun out there. And basically, you know, if they had gotten the Division I looks or the high D3 offerings, they probably would have gone and done that. But otherwise, it was come back, you know, be able to pull your school sweater on, play. You know, we try not to schedule against football games in our home, so have the true college experience at home. So again, we have another kid that went out in the NAHL, Chris Solomon, same thing. And, you know, he had gone up and played in the Midwest in the elite midget AAA hockey universe in the NAHL, and, you know, have that fun experience. And then you have other guys that want to go and play the full-time junior experience, but know for what they want to do academically, they can't probably do the true NCAA experience and the immersive junior experience. So they kind of play out that run and then come back where they can kind of have that balance too. So that's another reasoning. And again, a lot of them are almost all of them are local guys. We take a lot of pride in that. You know, we take a lot of pride when we play Wake Forest or UVA, two of our top rivals in the ACCHL, that they're mostly Northeast and upper Midwest private school kids. And there's such great hockey up there. And, you know, we've come out on the better end of those meetings the last few years. And our kids take a lot of pride in being, you know, mainly from North Carolina and getting that done. We wear that with a badge of honor. And our kid, not that we don't want out, you know, have kids from Chicago and New York, but we come in and we certainly make them their own.
And you have, so because you've moved facilities, you know, I thought last year you guys were kidding when you were like, Ryan, if you don't get here a couple hours before, we're going to have to sneak in the back door for a game. So now let's just change the scenery, right? The vaccines come out, we're down the road, COVID's under control, and we're back to regular hockey in your new facility. Tell me what that looks like. What's seating capacity in your new sheet of ice?
Yeah, so the whole counting standing room and seating will be at about will probably be about 1,600, they tell us, and I think that's probably about right. We have chair backs, you know, and they have some nice chair backs in the middle of the building there, which is nice, and some warmers there. Eventually, they'll get a restaurant in there. They haven't, you know, pushed forward. They have the owner of the restaurant that wants to come in and do it. Obviously not pushing forward right now when we can't even have spectators in there. So it's exciting. I think it'll be loud. There's also the old organ from PNC Arena there, which is going to be exciting too. So that's going to be great. So we'll have that. So I think it'll be a great atmosphere. What people don't know is Wade Minter, the PA voice of the Canes. He actually started with NC State. So he's actually our PA guy. We had him first, and, you know, we love Wade, and Wade, we're so lucky because he has not forgotten us as he's gone big time, especially because of club. We, you know, certainly he's still doing it on a volunteer basis for us. So we're really fortunate to have Wade with us too. And he has like a cult following. You need to have him on the podcast.
Right on. Let's get him on, man. That's awesome. And it's funny because you and I talk too. And after you're in hockey for, a given amount of years, the circle gets smaller and smaller,
Yeah.
and you're all connected somehow. You can find a connection to a buddy that somebody played with you some back in the day somewhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was just today. I was, it was texting with Ted O'Head, who was a prep school teammate of mine, and he was involved with the Everblades organization a bit when you were down there. So yeah, you get those crossovers running real fast.
That's right. Hey, I want to ask you this, Coach. So you have a tremendous record going on in the ACC. What does it look like going forward? Give me one or two goals where you see this, going. Especially, tell us first what your record is in the last couple of years in the ACC, and then tell me, how do you build on? Where do you see the future of NC State hockey
Yeah.
going?
So this year is obviously is we'll get into this year in a second, but and what we're hoping for the rest. But the past 2 years, we've the last 2 years. 2 years ago, we had a 27 game winning streak at one point. Last year, we had a 20 game winning streak. We haven't lost a home game or a regular season ACCHL game in a couple of years now. Back-to-back ACCHL titles. It's been really exciting. And that's really, you talk to the juniors, their goal is they want to make sure they walk out with 4 rings. And that's a worthy goal there. 2 years ago, we went to nationals, and we were kind of a little bit of a Cinderella story 2 years ago, in that we were 25-0 after the ACHL tournament, earned the first regionals bid since the guys in the early 2000s. And some of those guys are still around and active in the hockey community, like the Nick Sabos of the world. And but they didn't quite get to that nationals part, so we were able to take it that step further. And we were up at Liberty, played Liberty in kind of that regionals finals, if you will. And 5 years ago, Liberty's Division II beat us 15-1. And that day up there, I'll be honest, it was the best game we probably played in 3 years. And 4 years I've been with the team, and we upset them 4-1, and we went on to nationals. Whereas in the same hotel as their Division I team, which was, they're great up there. And so it was definitely great being with them. And so then come back around to last year, where the year before is kind of a little bit of a Cinderella story. There was no Cinderella story last year.
Okay.
We weren't sneaking up on anyone, and we got a little bit more, we also got some invites that we hadn't gotten before. For example, up to Liberty Showcase in the fall. We're able to play like UMass Lowell and Liberty and Denver Metro out there. So that was a good experience. And, we hadn't quite gelled as a team at that point. And that kind of gave a little bit of a wake-up call. And yeah, sure, we took 2 out of 3, but then we came back off and we lost a couple in a row. And then we went on, again, this 20-game winning streak, marched to the ACCHL. And actually did get upset in regionals by Wake Forest, who we'd beaten in the finals the week before. And credit to them. Of course, right after that, nationals didn't happen anyway. So then coming fast forward to this year, where we returned all of our top 4D, returned our top 2 goalies, and added a Division III transfer. Pretty much, I think, returned 5 of our 6 leading scorers, maybe 10 of our top 12 leading scorers from last year in general. The guys like, Late Chadala and Ryan Kinney certainly were going to be a loss, but added in, good pieces to strengthen that lineup. So coming into this year full of optimism. And, right at the end of July, the university said, hey, you guys can't be out on the ice at all right now. Then eventually we were able to work that and get back on the ice and get back to where we could even start to play some games in the fall. The problem is right now in the fall, basically the only teams that were on the ice is us, Liberty, their Division I and II, and Coastal Carolina. So we were able to get 4 games in the fall. 2 against Liberty's D2 and 1 against Liberty's D1 and 1 against Coastal. So a little bit of a slow start in that. Right now we're staying at 1 and 3, which is a little bit different for us. But we've also played. We've never played. The level of competition is off the charts. Liberty Division I as an ACHA team is. Last year they were number 2 in the nation. And we were actually, we held our own for a bit. We ended up losing 7-2, but we were knotted after the first period, and that was a good experience. And I come back to that again. Yep. 5 years ago, we lost 15-1 to their Division II team, and now we're stepping on the ice with their Division I team and being, the first and third periods we tied with them. So
what a great.
But that's where we want to get to be, though.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's one thing that I noticed with the culture that you've created, and the attitude, the enthusiasm, and the work ethic. I never had to say one thing to the guys when I was out there with them. They were all revved up, ready to go. Just tell us the drill and let's go.
Yeah, and I want to be careful that it's a we've created, and be a lot of credit to my predecessor, Mike Gazzillo, too. Real commitment to guys that don't want to bring the bar on the road into the hotel room, instead want to actually get ready and go out and compete and play hockey. The guys themselves, their goal is to get back to nationals and win a national championship. When we went to Texas for nationals 2 years ago, the guys feel like they left some money on the table out there. And so there's that hunger to get back to it. And we feel like with the returning cast we have, we can get there. Now the issue is getting other teams back on the ice to be able to actually have a season. That's a little bit of a struggle. We need to get 12 games in order for regionals, ACHAs committed to it. Mike Wally, as our commissioner of the ACCHL, is committed to an ACCHL final, even if there's only 4 teams playing, and getting that tournament going. So now it's a little bit wait and see. I'm confident UNC is going to come back and play. We know West Virginia is going to be on the ice second semester. So we think we'll get there, but it's just going to require a lot of flexibility. And credit to our guys. NC State had their outbreak on campus that did impact some of our guys early on. Once that kind of subsided and we were able to get together as a team and get in our team unit, the guys, we knock on wood, we did not have one COVID case this fall with the guys. They stayed in. We set up a lab that we had our guys go get tested through. When we went on the road trips, you'd come back, they're in the hotel instead of going out to dinner. They just did their discipline and accountability to each other really speaks to the team culture.
And that's a win right there in itself. College hockey team, holy cow, coach.
Yeah. And again, that's credit to, and again, we have great senior leadership in the locker room and guys that they're goal driven, and they know that, especially in this year, so much has been taken away from their college experience. They know that in some ways, this is one thing that's still out there that they can work towards.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we're gonna come back to that, and I'm gonna let you have the last word. But I want to throw a curveball at you, and something else that we have in common, which is house full of girls, right? Yeah. And I've got 2 myself. You have 2, and they're playing the great game. And that is changing across the country. Girls hockey is exploding, and specifically here in the Raleigh area. What have you seen in the last couple of years that get you excited for girls development?
Well, I just think, there's a couple things. One is we're really lucky in Raleigh that, while we're not a hockey destination, we have 2 women in Alyssa Gallardi and Colleen Murphy who've played at the highest level of women's hockey in NWHL. So and they're active back in the game here. So you and I can be a lot of things for our daughters, but we can't be a role model of a female athlete, right? And it just so happens that we have 2 down here who on their worst day of skating are still much better skaters than I am. Maybe not compared to you with your edges. So, they have that role modeling there, and they're active and want to give back. And then I think we have a guy in Dave Ray who has a real vision for where he wants the girls program to be. And so I think the merger a couple of years ago between the Eagles and the Canes has gone a long way. And then, we have a lot of parents who understand that, when you play that, there's a parallel track involved when you play girls hockey. What I mean by that is when you go out and play boys hockey, you don't really carry any burden to try and grow the game, right? Like there's enough boys coming through. I mean, there's new boys programs popping up in the Triangle every year. And so, we want to grow the game in the Triangle, but it's a little bit different on the boys side. Our girls side, we have the on one hand, we need our girls to get better players, but there's also kind of that impetus to grow the game on top of it. And so we have a lot of parents, the Mike Wilbons and the Tim Sauls, that when they see a girl, hey, did you hear about this one? Or this weekend, Tim Polly was up in Roanoke. Hey, there's a girl up here. She'd be great on the tournament team. So, we have that great community buy-in on the girls' side that wants to see it take off, which has helped. And the result is, last year for our U10, U12 tryouts, we had 46 girls. This year we had 72.
Go.
I mean, that's unprecedented growth. We've added, we added a second U14 team this year and a tier 1 U14 team. With the first one in Caja. We now have that full-time girls junior premier team led by Mike Gazzillo and Alyssa Galari. So, I mean, the growth and vision is unprecedented. And I think that's what you have to have, people that have the vision, that's an aspirational vision. And we have that right now. We have that in a lot of areas. I feel like we have that in NC State with what we want to be with our program on the national level, kind of like the Gonzaga of college basketball. Our conference might be mid-major, own the conference, but go out and play non-league games against anyone and everyone where they want it to be. And then we kind of have that mentality too in the junior canes with the girls. Like, yeah, we're in Caja. We love Caja. We want to grow the game. We want to be the premier girls team and where girls can come and play on their tournament teams with Caja, but we also want to go up to Detroit and compete. We want to go up. Last year, 2 of our teams went up and won the Middlesex Islanders tournament. We had a team this summer win their division in the Beantown Classic. So that's what we're trying to grow to do is take care of our girls regionally, but then be able to promote them and compete outside of the region.
Well, in the paradigm shift, remember back in the day when you found out you were going to go travel south and go beat up on a bunch of teams in a tournament and win it, beat everybody 10-0. You're like, oh, we're going to go down, south of the Mason-Dixon line. We're going to kill this tournament. Things have changed.
Yeah. So when I was coaching girls at Tilton School, the big tournament was the Polar, the Connecticut Polar Bears holiday tournament. It was right after Christmas, and the main girls teams would be at Weathersford and stuff like that. Well, I also knew we weren't a premier team, so if I went and recruited there, I probably wasn't going to come out ahead of some of the schools like Exeter. So Pat Norton used to tell me, go to where they're not. So I knew there wouldn't be any scouts in the building to see like the junior canes play. And we're talking like 2008. So I'd be like an hour away from the epicenter at Shelton at like 10 p.m. at night, watching the girls canes 14 teams play. And because they weren't on that level. And, there'd be a couple girls out there and they'd stand out. And that's the girls I would try and want to land for my program. But now when you look at you can tell a lot about the respect the program has by the rinks and times they're playing in, and it's just not that way anymore. Our girls teams, they're not, when they go to the real true showcase tournaments, they're in the mix like everyone else and given exposure. And that's why we have, girls playing college hockey coming right out of here, or maybe a short little prep school stop, but for the most part, mainly their development has been here.
Well, and then now, so you've got some fathers like us, right? Where if I would have stayed home in Michigan, if you were still up in New York, maybe they wouldn't have had to go far to play high level girls hockey. So now you've got Gazzillo and Alyssa coaching the new Premier League team. I mean, that's going to be a great opportunity for girls to stay home, and they're playing in the same facility, an amazing facility.
Yeah, and their locker room's right next to ours. They have a great space too. And that's the thing too, is it definitely had to be girl, this is before I ever envisioned living down here. So for the Southeast District, used to send these kind of all-star teams up to New England and for tournaments. And to help save money on flying a coach up, they would often find local coaches. So I ended up coaching a lot of the Southeast District teams, and a lot of them were North Carolina girls, and they almost all ended up going off to prep schools. And I felt like I was actually taking, because I work in prep schools full time, I felt like I was taking almost like an admissions counselor job with them, which I loved it. I loved helping them. And it's funny being back down there now that those girls are young women, and some of them are coaching now, like a Maddie Alpin. So, but what I'm getting at is now those girls have a high-end option to stay home. They have a U14 tier 1 option. Hopefully we can grow that into a U16 tier 1 option, and we see where the 19s. So you have the opportunity to stay home, or at least stay home longer too. As I sit here as a girl dad, when Meredith first got into hockey, it was like, if she's really going to want to go on and do this thing, she would probably have to go off and play prep school.
Yep.
And now that's not the case. Now it really can become what is best for Meredith Healy across the board. What is best for Bridget Healy across the board. Even though they're really young in their way, they're 10 and 7, but just knowing that as a parent who has 2 daughters that love the game, to know that now they have local options to be able to pursue their dream too, which is pretty powerful.
I've seen them on the ice. I've seen some things. They've got talent.
They work at it, and that's a credit to down here, right? Like through the Canes First Goal program, that was their entry point. We did not, and I'm not speaking behind her back because we joke about this. When Meredith, we lived in Florida for 3 years too before he came up here, did the youth soccer thing. Literally in the little kids soccer with no goalies, it is impossible not to score a goal. She never scored a goal in 3 seasons of it. Where I was like, okay, athletics just isn't going to be your thing. So, the first goal comes around. Actually was sitting next to Emil Hartman at an NCFC soccer game, and he tells me about it and said, oh, by the way, we also need some people to come out there and coach. So off and running. And I figured, it's $97, all the equipment, 2 tickets. If she doesn't like it, I sell the equipment, I go to a game and I break even. Well, she loved it immediately. And took to it, and she's been working hard at it ever since. And we have come to the realization that she just hates being out in the sun and playing sports. So at a cold rink, it's perfect for her. So that explains why she wasn't moving out there in Florida in soccer. But we laugh about that now. And then Bridget, our younger daughter, just falling right on her heels. And they're both rink rat kids too. They're on the ice constantly, which is great.
And they're always smiling. They're very, very nice young ladies, of course. They're your daughters.
Well, I appreciate it.
Pleasure, Coach.
Well, they get that from their mom. Mary Ellen is, we could honestly, the 3, we couldn't do any of this without her. I mean, how supportive she is. The late nights, frankly, early mornings, because I have a 7-year-old, so their ice times are at 7 a.m. and coaching college kids, their ice times are at 10 o'clock at night. So, it's definitely everyone in the household working so we can do this and help grow the game down here.
Well, and I'm very appreciative of you being on the show, because I know this is your free time. It's weird not talking to you in a rink anyway. It's kind of trying to wrap my head around that we're not next to a sheet of ice. So I thank you for showing up, taking some of your free time. And when you're not with NC State, you're with your daughters and you got a full-time gig. And I'm just finally glad that I got a chance to get you on here. And what I want to do is I want to give you the very last word, right? And give me some hope for after the holidays. And is there going to be some more hockey coming this spring? And can we see the Icepack play?
Well, I'm actually pretty, whether you're going to see him play live or in person. Actually, you can see him play live. You're on the coaches list, so you can actually get into their build.
For the listeners, Coach.
But whether you see us live or in person, that I can't say, but I can say we have games scheduled. And if it's not in person, we know that Pack TV is going to cover the games. I also know Pack TV is talking to a couple of our local outlets here to cover games like the UNC game. So even if it's not in person, you can see every game on the Pack thanks to Pack TV. You talk about supporters for growth of the game. I mean, they're amazing. So the last word is you're going to see us in 2021, whether it's in person or on TV. I can't tell you, but I can tell you you'll see the Pack out on the ice. We've already been out on the ice. I talked to Jeff Volkman today up at UNC. He's pretty optimistic too. So we know West Virginia is coming back on. So there is cause for optimism. And I think the fact that we pulled off the fall is in such a healthy manner. And it took a lot of stuff too. We didn't throw caution to the wind, but the fact that we pulled off the fall, I think gives some hope to some other teams that they can do it too.
That's awesome. Well, hey, once again, I wish you nothing but the best this season, Coach, whatever it may be. I hope you have a great rest of the season and hope hockey opens up and COVID goes away. I want to thank everybody for listening to the Carolina Hockey Podcast. That's Tim Healy, coach of the NC State Icepack, and we'll see you next time.
Go Pack. Thanks for having me on, Ryan.
You got it. See you, Coach.
Yeah.